Good morning, and welcome to another edition of United Way for Southeastern Michigan's What's the Word Wednesday. My name is Courtney Howe, and I'd like to thank you for joining us today for a town hall with the Gamma Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, located here in Detroit. Al is joining us to talk about how we all can honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. through our words and our actions. As a reminder, the last 10 minutes of today's conversation are reserved for questions. So please leave your questions in the Q&A box if you're watching on Zoom or in the comment box on Facebook. First, I'm going to turn things over to United Way for Southeastern Michigan's President and CEO, Dr. Darian Hudson, to tell us a little more about today's topic and our featured guest. Dr. Hudson?
Thank you so much, Courtney, and good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to have all of you join us here to talk about a very, very special person and celebrating a very special day. This week, as you know, we would have been celebrating the 93rd birthday of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And each year on MLK Day, we honor him by committing acts of service in our communities, advocating for policies that strengthen our rights, and educating ourselves about the racial and economic inequities that impact us all. Dr. King's sister, Christine King Ferris, was my professor when I was at Spelman College, and she taught me everything I know about education. And she used to always remind us about the importance of the King holiday being a day on and not a day off. We are lucky here in Detroit to have so many organizations that are dedicated to carrying on Dr. King's legacy, from the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History to the community organizations working towards racial justice, to groups like the Detroit area Gamma Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, who make it part of their mission to provide opportunities for Black youth in our region to learn, grow, and succeed. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was the first intercollegiate Black Greek organization. Dr. King himself pledged the Sigma chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha in 1952, and the Detroit chapter is one of the oldest in the country, serving our community since 1919. We're honored today to have Alburn H. Elvin, president of the Gamma Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, here with us today. Al has worked in the health insurance industry for more than 15 years and currently manages a team at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, focused on providing valuable corporate governance products and services for the respective board of directors at Blue Cross and its HMO subsidiary, Blue Care Network. He is also a licensed attorney in the state of Michigan and represents clients with tax and estate planning issues, as well as other legal matters. Al is an alumnus of Wayne State University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in journalism and a master's degree in communications. He also holds his Juris Doctorate and MBA degrees from the University of Detroit Mercy. After earning both degrees from Wayne State University, Al spent time at Wayne State as an adjunct professor in the College of Fine, Performing, and Communication Arts. As a communications professional, Al spent 9 years as a news reporter, writing for the Detroit News and the Oakland Press. Elected in 2020, Al serves as the vice president of the Oak Park School Board. Al is also an active member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, where he serves as the 49th president of Gamma Lambda chapter, seated right here in Detroit, and he is the legal counsel for the Midwestern region, comprised of 12 U.S. states and Canada. Al was also recognized as a 2019 Man of Excellence by the Michigan Chronicle and Real Times. And I think from what I've shared today, we all know why. And so we are so pleased to have you here with us today, Al. I am very partial because my father is also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Pledge Beta Rho in 1962. So very happy to have you here and looking forward to everything you have to share with us about Dr. Martin Luther King. Thank you.
Glad to be here. Thank you. So we ready to get rolling? Okay. All right. So, I mean, it's no secret why Dr. King matters to so many people. And we've all heard the I Have a Dream speech and some of his words. In fact, many people from Detroit know that he first did that speech right here in the city of Detroit. So, you know, we've heard some of the sound bites from that, and everyone's kind of familiar with that a little bit. Some of his more popular teachings, Letter from Birmingham Jail and things of that nature. But one of the things that people don't know often is that, he was a member of our fraternity and our organization. And so we try to make sure that we honor him in special ways every year, no matter which chapter, no matter where we are in the United States or even in some other countries. We want to make sure we honor our brother in some very special ways. So why he matters so much to us is because he is a member of our organization. And you mentioned earlier, Dr. Hudson, that he was a member of the Sigma chapter. And so he would be 70 years old in Alpha if he were still alive this year. And so that's his shingle up on the top right. So he is a duly initiated member of our organization. He now resides in Omega chapter, our chapter of Sweet Rest for brothers who are deceased. But you can see there on the bottom left of the slide that I have us paying homage to him as a fraternity. And there you see the memorial that our fraternity was instrumental and pivotal in making sure that got built on the Washington Mall. So just wanted to note why he matters so much to our organization, because he's one of us, and you can see on the bottom right, him with some of the brothers there. If we can go to the next slide and keep going. So what we do as a fraternity, and specifically in our chapter, is we honor him by providing service on an annual basis, at the very least on his birthday. Now, we provide service throughout the year, but this is a special one for us because, again, we're honoring our fraternity brother. And we've been doing this now for at least a decade or beyond that, a day on, not a day off. That was kind of the hashtag, the mantra. We just kind of since taken it on to be, this is part of our way of life, because this is what we do. This is not a day for us to just chill and relax. This is a day to pay homage to someone who meant so much, not only to our fraternity and not just to Black people, but to people who around the world. If we can go back, I just want to note a couple of things on the previous slide. Thank you. So you'll see there that our very own chapter brother, James Tate, city councilman, recently crowned pro tem, it was there. And we have Gary Brown, director of Detroit's Water and Sewage Department. He is not a member of the organization, but he was there to help provide advice and guidance to residents of the city of Detroit during our service day. If you look on the bottom left, that's our Vice President, Kyle Hamilton Sr., conducting what we call a Project Alpha event, in which we are providing guidance to young males on how to treat and act with young ladies, which is an important thing for them to know at this early stage of their life. And so, again, we were talking about, with Gary Brown, we were talking about plans to help residents of the city of Detroit be able to afford their water and things of that nature, and make it a little bit more affordable for them and palatable for them to make that payment. We go to the next slide now. We continued our service with financial literacy for students. We did it for parents, we did it for students. And so we also passed out, if you see on the right side, PPE, healthy eating recipes, things of that nature. So it is a full day of service, and it runs the gamut from making sure they have balanced meals. The students come in, make sure they have balanced meals, to make sure they understand when you get a little older, can you afford that haircut that you want, or that pair of Jordans that you want to buy? Does that fit in your budget based on the amount of money that you're making? And so, financial literacy, again, for students and parents. This is how we celebrate every MLK Day. Can we go to the next one? I think I have one more like that. So on this particular day, again, we continued our service with students. You can see on the top left, some of us, gathered to take a picture. On the bottom left, you'll see some of the students lined up on the left and up on the right. On the bottom right, though, you'll note that we unveiled a mural. We've done more than one mural over the years, but we unveiled it. It's been a while, and we unveiled a mural on Monday that shows Venus and Serena Williams with a quote from each of them. It's got a little bit more work to go on that mural. But this is the types of things that we do to celebrate MLK Day, because we want to make sure we honor his legacy by giving back and doing something for others, which I'll touch on in a minute. We can go to the next slide, please. So it's not a secret, the things that Dr. King stood for. Protest, nonviolent forms of protest, racial equality, love for all mankind, equal opportunity for education, uplifting downtrodden society, financial empowerment. In fact, it was that financial empowerment that was kind of his evolution as he, got closer to the end of his life. And when he was in Memphis, getting ready to give that speech, I think it was with the sanitation workers, making sure they were getting their piece of the pie, so to speak. And that wasn't just Black sanitation workers, that was all sanitation workers. So that's where those are the things that he stood for. No need to read them all, but I want to note that, because if we go to the next slide, we'll see some of his famous quotes, right? We talked about those a minute ago. Some of those salacious sound bites, some of the things that we've heard over the years, the quotes that we read and those that we see on MLK Day on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and on everyone's account. These are the types of things that we see. My favorite quote happens to be on the left. The ultimate measure of a man is where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience. Not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. So we see all of these quotes, and we see them a lot around his birthday. I'm setting this up as we go to the next slide because it's important that we put that in there. Because now, what would he think if he looked at where we are today? And so, if you look at those pictures, you see signs on their face of exasperation, because he, in my opinion, he looked back and said, 54 years later, it's been 54 years, and we're still trying to do the same things that we were trying to get done when he was alive back in his day. We were trying to protect voting rights. We're still trying to do that now. Trying to make sure our sons and daughters get home safely from a trip to the corner store. We're still doing that now. And so, I mean, if you look at all these things, eradicating healthcare disparities, seeking justice in many ways, hoping for a level playing field, these are the things we're doing now. And I know he would say, okay, we had Barack Obama, but we still have a ways to go. And it's been 54 years. That's a long time to be fighting some of the same fights we were trying to get to in the 50s and the 60s. And we go to the next slide, please. So I think he'd be aghast at some of the things he sees, right? Restrictive voting legislation. Lots of states are putting that in place, particularly since last year, but you can see on the slide here, since 2011. Open season on unarmed Black males. It was the same way in the 50s and 60s. The only difference now is the advent of the cell phone video camera. So it's put out there for people to see, but it was happening then too. There are two justice systems for the haves and the have-nots, and these hate-filled groups that were alive and well, functioning in the 50s and the 60s and before then. And not that they went away completely, but they are rising and gaining in popularity and becoming increasingly bold in their action and their rhetoric. So these are the things that he would see, and probably would say, my goodness, we haven't come as far as I would have hoped in some ways. But there is still hope. And if we can go to the next slide, there are people who think that there are some things we need to do differently. And one of those things is not just post his quotes on one day and then do everything counter to his beliefs and his teachings the rest of the 364 days of the year. There are people using the quotes that you'll see behind this and that you saw earlier for their personal gain or their personal reasons, but they aren't in line with Dr. King's teachings or in line with his thoughts or his idealisms or any of that. They aren't in line with what he felt. They're using them for their own purpose. And so there's some things we can do differently and we should be doing differently to honor his legacy. And as we go to the next slide, we'll talk about a few of those. So that racist and violence-inducing rhetoric, speak out against that. Not only tone it down, but speak out against those who are using it. And if you look at the example below, that is from the Shelby Township Police Chief, which is, not that far from the city of Detroit. It's just, maybe 30, 40 minutes north, if that. And so tone down that rhetoric. Ask, what can you do for others? And what are you doing for others? And that's why we spend so much time on MLK Day, making sure that we are doing for others, because that was one of his quotes and one of his beliefs. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And so that's certainly something that we all need to be doing, not just looking out for ourselves, but what are we doing to help others to thrive and to be better and to have a better life? How can we help someone else? So we honor that legacy, we honor that question and that legacy point by doing that on MLK Day. But again, as his fraternity brothers, we honor that throughout the year by giving back to those in our community. Remember that silence is complicity. So standing up for what's right. In the end, this is his quote. We remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Don't just sit back and see something that's wrong and do nothing. Stand up and say something. Stand up and be a part of the solution. Because if you're not being a part of the solution, then you're contributing to the problem. And let's have actions that are matching our words, right? I noted this earlier, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't really matter. But if we're going to be using these words, his words, let's put action behind it. Let's make sure we put value behind these words and we do something to help our fellow man and mankind. And I think these are the main points. It's not a lot. That's not a lot. But these are the things, small things that we can do to make sure that we are giving back, to make sure we are honoring his legacy, not just on an annual basis, but on a daily basis.
Al, thank you so much for sharing more about the history of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the current work of the Detroit Alphas. And as members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Dr. Hudson and I stand beside you in service. At this time, we will now begin the question and answer session. If you have not done yet, if you have not yet done so, please put your questions in the Q&A box on Facebook or in the chat function on Zoom. So our first question comes from the chat box here. And pardon me, the first question is, we've seen relentless attacks on voting rights at the federal level, as well as at the state level. What kinds of voter education programs does your organization participate in?
That's an interesting point. So to tell you the truth, this one of our national programs called Voteless People is a Hopeless People. And if you go back in the last two election cycles, so the presidential cycle, as well as anything that occurred last year in 2021, we were instrumental in providing information and education to those in the area about those who they need to be elected, those who they're going to elect. We also provided information about ballot proposals. And we did that virtually, so it would have been easy to attend. You could be sitting in front of the TV and log into that because of COVID, obviously. But we've done a tremendous job of letting people know, what's going on out there in their communities in terms of ballot proposals, as well as bringing on those running for elected office. And I'm talking about Gary Peters, Rashida Tlaib, all of these people we have brought on, and they've been guests of ours to talk about their platform and what they want to do for the city of Detroit and the residents of Michigan.
That's wonderful. I want to learn more about, can you tell us more about your chapter's programmatic focuses as a whole and what upcoming events or programs you all are hosting?
Well, as a whole, or are we talking about voting rights? I just want to make sure I answer the question correctly.
Absolutely. The question is more about your chapter, the Detroit Alphas. You can talk about what your programmatic focuses are, or focus that you all are doing within your programs as a chapter, and maybe what events are coming up that are for the public.
Right. Well, we've got 4 what we call national programs, or what you might call platforms. One of them I just mentioned was Voteless People is Hopeless People. This is a pivotal year for elections in our country and our state and locally. So we will be doing a lot of work in that space. Some of it will be virtual. We hope at some point we can get back to some face-to-face stuff, because we would love to be able to put residents out there with those running for public office if we can. But we will continue that work as well. We also, in conjunction with our Go to High School, Go to College national program, provides our Education Foundation provides scholarships for young men getting ready to matriculate to college. And so that happens in June. So I know we can look out for that on our website, DetroitAlphas.org. where we will post information about that. So if someone wants to, if they would like to apply for that scholarship, they can start looking for that information probably in March to learn more about that. But the bottom line is there's not a lot we're doing in person right now. We do have our golf outing in the summertime just so that we can, start to help to do these scholarships and, continue to do some of the work that we do. And, whenever it's possible, we'll invite people down to our fraternity house, which was recently named on the National Register of Historic Places is one of the oldest fraternity houses of any kind in the country. And we've owned this place since 1939. And so whenever we can do that, we'll open that up for the public to come check out and hang out with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I know educating is very important to the Alphas. Can you speak more about the mentoring program that you offer to youth in the area? We are also seeing an emphasis on going back to school to get a trade certificate or associate's degree. Do you offer any kind of mentorship to those non-traditional college students?
Yeah, so our main arm for that is what we call the Alpha Esquire. And that is for young men who generally in high school, I think we go down to like age 13. And so that runs all year round. And right now that's virtual as well. So it's still running. They have a step team that is, I want to call it world renowned. And so, but we continue to do programming for these young men, teach them some of the do's and don'ts of young manhood, prepare them as they get ready to go to college and things of that nature. And so we will continue that work, and we still continue that work even amidst this pandemic. Again, you can go to our website if there's a request for additional information on that, or I'm happy to provide my information if anybody wants to reach out and connect with me, and we can answer additional questions as it relates to that. I know there's a part of that question I didn't touch, so I can't remember what the rest of it was.
The other part of the question was, do you all offer any support or programming around non-traditional college students, like for trades or associate degrees?
We do not, but I know that there are organizations in the area that do that. I have given some thought to trying to see what partnerships we can leverage to make sure that we get some of our young men to do that. But I'm certain that if people have questions, we have enough brothers in our chapter that somebody knows something, and we can figure out how to give some information to someone who's looking for trade type of information.
I'm really glad that you mentioned partnerships. The other question that's come up is, if someone is interested in partnering with the Detroit Alphas, who would they contact and what kind of programs would you be interested in partnering with? So we're talking about maybe other agencies or educational institutions. How can they contact you?
So we have partnered with other organizations on a number of things, and talked about some of our voter education initiatives in 2021. We had a partnership there. We've partnered on other initiatives as well over the years. But if there are questions about potential partnerships or leveraging what we do or finding ways where we can have some synergy, just reach out to me, and I'll take my number is 313-779-9537. So it's easy. Just give me a call or a text or something, and we can have some discussion.
Al, thank you so much. And that's all the time that we have for questions today. Before we leave, we'd like to share a few resources and updates with the community and those who are viewing. So at this time, I'd like to give it to Dr. Hudson for the closing. Dr. Hudson.
Okay, thank you so much, Courtney. And again, thank you so much to Albert Elvin Jr. For representing Alpha Phi Alpha today and for sharing so many historical facts and also recent actions that we all need to be taking if we're serious about honoring the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So we appreciate you being here with us, appreciate the charge. And I think by the questions, you can see that there are a lot of people listening who are looking for more ways to get involved, looking for partnership opportunities. So we thank you for joining us, Al. And I hope that everyone learned as much as I did about the opportunities that we have available to us to continue to make a difference in Dr. King's legacy.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. What did you say?
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So wanted to also remind all of our listeners that if you are experiencing a need, that help is still available for you 24/7. We are still operating our 211 helpline. We are maintaining a list of available services in the community and can help connect you to different supports that you need. You can also look up resources in your area by using our 211 resource database at unitedwaysem.org/211. This includes a number of mental health resources as well. So please don't hesitate to call or visit our website if you or someone you know is in need of help. And again, these services are available to the community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays. I also wanted to share that on February 2nd at 1 p.m., United Way, in partnership with the University of Michigan Poverty Solutions, will be launching our first Financial Wellbeing Innovation Challenge. This initiative aims to support and fund innovative ideas that will help Detroiters become more financially stable by breaking down systemic barriers to stability. The public is welcome and encouraged to join us for this kickoff event, which will be held virtually via Zoom and Facebook Live like we have today. You can learn more and register to attend at www.unitedwaysem.org/FWBIC. And we'll also share the link in our chat for you as well. So we hope that you will take the time to join us and spread the word. We want as many ideas as possible coming to the table. So we're excited to share that information with the community on Wednesday, February the 2nd. Our next town hall will take place on Wednesday, February 9th. So we'll have a few Wednesdays off before we see you again. We will be celebrating 211 Awareness Month and learn more about the resources that are available through 211. So to see our previous town halls and learn more about upcoming topics, please visit unitedwaysem.org/virtual town halls. And the website is also included in our chat box. Until then, everyone, we ask that you continue to mask up, stay safe. We pray that all of you are healthy. We thank you for joining us, and we encourage everyone to continue to light the way.